Oregon versus 4 seed Duke. That game is also tonight. I predicted, it's on my list, I predicted Duke to beat Oregon, so I'm sticking with it. Duke to beat Oregon. They're the better program. They've got the better coaching. That being said, style-wise and athleticism-wise, if Oregon is able to impose their style of play on this game, that is how Oregon can and will come out victorious. However, if Oregon is not able to do that, Duke will win any other type of basketball game. So that's why I'm picking Duke. But again, Oregon is a good team. They're a 1 seed for a reason, and they just might advance. But I'm sticking with Duke. And then Texas A&M versus Oklahoma, 3 seed versus 2 seed. I have Oklahoma advancing to the Elite Eight. Granted, it was over Northern Iowa. The fact that it's against Texas A&M makes no difference to me. The fact that Texas A&M shouldn't even be in this game and should have lost to Northern Iowa, and just Texas A&M has not looked particularly impressive in my mind, at least, at any point in this tournament. Oklahoma has. I am confidently taking Oklahoma. That being said, this will probably be the inexplicable heartbreaker from this round for me, where I just go, how could that? It doesn't even make sense. But yeah, so I'm picking Oklahoma, where it will be, as I predicted originally, Oklahoma versus Duke in the Elite Eight in the West. Oh, I'm hoping I'm right. Man, I'm hoping I'm right. Then we move over to the East. We'll have UNC versus Indiana. This game, I'm picking Indiana. Not because they beat Kentucky and, Kentucky's Kentucky, but because Indiana has been a top 10 team this year. And if they've got it clicking and figured out, I like them and the way they're built and the way they play more than UNC. I don't trust North Carolina. I've watched several of their games this year, and I just don't trust them. I don't trust them. They've got fall apart written all over them, and this is where I had North Carolina losing. I just had it happening to Kentucky, so I'm sticking with that. North Carolina will lose to Indiana. Indiana advances to the Elite Eight as a 5 seed in the East. They will be taking on the winner of Notre Dame versus Wisconsin, and I'm calling it right now. It's going to be an all Big Ten Elite Eight matchup in the Eastern region, with Indiana taking on the Wisconsin Badgers, because the Badgers will beat Notre Dame. And then down in the Midwest, boy, 2 should be good games, but for different reasons. The Gonzaga versus Syracuse, that'll be a good game because they're 2 underdog Cinderella story, evenly matched small school, well, not small school, but evenly matched teams that no one really expected a lot out of this year. It should be a good, competitive, entertaining game. That being said, I'm going Gonzaga here. On paper, in the rankings, they have been the better team all year. Syracuse is just the bigger program. I do not trust the overall talent on the Syracuse team, and I think the Zags are a true team. So I like the Gonzaga Zags to defeat the Syracuse Orangemen and advance to the Elite Eight, where they will take on the winner of Virginia-Iowa State. That's going to be a great game because those are 2 awesome teams. Virginia plays phenomenal defense. Iowa State is a phenomenal offense. Virginia also can play offense. And that is why I'm picking Virginia, because they are the most impressive, dominant, complete team in this tournament thus far, based off of what we've seen. So while it should be a great game, and Iowa State does have a chance to win this one, again, upset here wouldn't shock me a ton, but I feel really confident that Virginia will defeat Iowa State and move on to the Elite Eight. So then my proposed Elite Eight matchups and predictions for Saturday and Sunday would be, let's keep it on that side, starting in the East. As I mentioned, it'll be a Big Ten matchup, Indiana versus Wisconsin, and I like Indiana. I had Kentucky representing in the Final Four there. Indiana took out Kentucky, so that's my horse that I'm riding then to the Final Four. Indiana going to be your Eastern rep. Then out of the Midwest, we'll have Virginia versus Gonzaga. That one's going to be a slaughter. This one's going to be ugly. and Virginia will win that easily, advancing to the Final Four. A Virginia-Syracuse game could actually be a really good, hard-fought game between, two rival schools. So that, I guess, is what we're hoping for as a neutral fan, maybe, is for Syracuse to end up taking on Virginia there. But I think Virginia advances to the Final Four as the 1 seed out of the Midwest fairly easily, as long as they can get past Iowa State here. Then we will have Kansas versus Miami, and I'll still ride Kansas yet for one more game, but it would not surprise me if Kansas loses to Miami in the Elite Eight. That would not surprise me. However, if Villanova beats Miami and then it's Villanova versus Kansas, Kansas losing to Villanova would surprise me. Just the way they match up their styles. I can't imagine a scenario other than Nova plays lights out and Kansas, doesn't show up at all. So we're hesitantly. Kansas has a tough road. They got a tough road to get past Maryland. Then they got a tough road to get past the winner of Miami Nova. Really tough road. But we're going with Kansas to beat Miami in the Elite Eight and advance to the Final Four. Then, in an epic Elite Eight matchup, we will have 4-seed, hopefully Duke, versus 2-seed, hopefully Oklahoma. That's going to be, like I said, phenomenal game. Probably the best game of the tournament overall, maybe, with the exception of hopefully the national championship game, but or another one of the Final Four games. But I have Oklahoma taking out Duke. Duke has been just a little like North Carolina this year, inconsistent, their own worst enemy, and at some point in time they're going to come up against a complete team, and they'll shoot themselves in the foot. And that is exactly what I think is going to happen. Oklahoma will defeat Duke in the Elite Eight and advance to the Final Four. So my Final Four predictions as of now altered are Kansas and Oklahoma, which is still from my original, but then I am changing Kentucky to Indiana, and I am changing Michigan State to Virginia. So that's all of our college basketball ketchup and mustard. So I'm not sure how your brackets held up. If they're as respectable as mine. Again, I'm not going to win nothing anywhere, but very respectable showing here in my brackets. I'm quite pleased with it. And if we can make that same kind of improvement next year when we're filling out the brackets, boy, look out. Then I think I might have to charge people to listen to the show to get my picks. Or at least a commission, maybe not a right on the spot fee, but at least a commission of your winnings, like 5%. Gotta come to me. That's the goal. That's the dream. That's where we want to be. So, yeah. There. That's it. Balls on Fire has been put out. And we're going to move on with the show because we're at almost 40 minutes here. In the blink of an eye, I went from having all day and all night to do the show to literally having, an hour and a half, end of Thursday, beginning of Friday to finish it. So we'll check in and maybe even give you some updates on the outcomes of games yet, since I wasn't planning on that, but now it's looking like it is going to turn out that way. But, let's get into now. We'll keep it. That was a little bit of balls dribble since it's basketball talk, but officially it was Balls on Fire. Now we'll get into the other half of the balls dribble conversation, keeping it in basketball, discussing men's professional basketball in the NBA. And as always, when it comes to talking the association, or at least, usual, we start with my and possibly your Minnesota Timberwolves, who were in action last night against the Sacramento Kings, and holy guacamole, don't look now, Batman, but the Timberwolves actually won a game. They defeated the Sacramento Kings at the Target Center by a score of 113-104. This coming off of a very hard-fought loss to the best team in all of basketball, the Golden State Warriors, on Monday, where the Wolves lost 109-104, and that was following a tough loss in Houston to the Rockets on Friday by a score of 116-111. So Timberwolves hadn't been winning since the last time we talked, but they had been playing really, really well against teams who were in the playoffs. And then they pick up an actual W here last night. Now, on Friday, they will be on the road in Washington taking on the Wizards. That is a 6 p.m. Central Standard Time start. And, the Wizards are an underachieving team this year. That being said, they still have plenty of talent and athleticism, especially in the backcourt, which I feel matching up with the Timberwolves' defensive weaknesses suggests that the Wizards will, in fact, win this game. A lot of T-Wolves fans will be happy with that and are probably upset that we beat the Kings because they want to lose as many of these last 11 games here now that we have to increase the number of lottery balls we have to get a better draft pick potentially. And productive, proper thinking couldn't be more opposite. If you were a Wolves fan who wants what is best for the Timberwolves, what is best for the Timberwolves is not to acquire another high draft pick that hopefully has talent and can play. We have a fabulous 5, 6, 7 guys on our team. What we don't have is depth. What we don't have is veteran leadership. And what we don't have is a true starting point guard in the NBA. Sorry, Ricky Rubio, but you're just not. You are a sixth-man point guard if there has ever been one. Oh my gosh, it should be obvious to every even semi-intelligent basketball mind. But for whatever reason, people keep insisting that he's a starting point guard. He's a starting point guard. You can start him at point guard, sure. Yeah, you can do that if you want. You're not going to be a playoff team ever, no matter who you are or who you have around him. It's just not going to happen. So, while yes, the higher you pick in the draft does give you a better chance of adding a better player to your team, adding more good players to our team is not the number one priority or focus right now at all. The number one priority for the T-Wolves right now is to develop the current talent that they have. Not necessarily. Rubio's kind of left out of this one a little bit because he's about what he's going to be, I think, at this point in his career. But developing Zach LaVine into an all-around star, developing Andrew Wiggins into an all-around star, and developing Karl Anthony Towns into a all-time great, into a Hall of Famer, because he's already a bona fide superstar, and he did that on his own. But I don't want to see him end up being a Kevin Love, who fills up a stat sheet and doesn't win any games. I don't want to see him be like Kevin Garnett was for the first 4 or 5 years of his career here, struggling to get his team into the playoffs while being the do-everything, all-around player that he was. So, to me, it's without question the most important thing is developing the pieces that we already have, continuing to get them to improve. LaVine's defense needs to improve big time. Wiggins' defense needs to improve. Wiggins' shot and scoring needs to be more consistent. His ball security needs to be better. There are plenty of areas where all these players, all these young, talented pieces that we got can get better. And if they do, then the numbers they're putting up on a night-to-night basis right now that are looking really good on the stat sheet but aren't resulting in wins will result in wins. It's all the little subtleties of the game that the T-Wolves are missing, and that's why we don't get W's, because we can score the rock, we can play basketball, we've got ballers on this team. But what we don't have, in my opinion, is a coach. And if we did have a coach, these guys would be able to play defense by now with 11 games to go in an 82-game season. They'd have a scheme that they at least understood and executed the way they were told to. Now, whether it still worked or not, that's totally different and not on them. But the fact that they don't even have a defensive identity out there on the court yet, 70 games into the season, is unacceptable. And it's not on the players just because they're young and stupid and have so much to learn yet. That's ridiculous. It's on the coaching being inept and incompetent and unqualified and, handed a job, fallen into a job due to, unforeseen